You know, Rob, the world of comic book movies kind of had a tectonic shift when it got announced that James Gunn, who had been directing for Marvel and had a pretty big role in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, kind of being the architect of the galactic scale stuff for Kevin Feige. He, of course, famously got let go by Disney and then picked up by Warner Brothers, and it was announced that he was going to do a Suicide Squad movie, to which all of us thought, perfect, this is great. Then we saw a little glimpse of his Suicide Squad at DC Fandom. The stuff looked incredible, absolutely incredible. Now something interesting is coming out here. James Gunn was recently being in an interview, and he basically explained that when he took the job, DC told him, you can kill anybody in this movie that you want. Anybody. When asked specifically, hey, on Twitter, does that include Harley Quinn? He said, anybody. DC told me I could kill anybody in this thing. This tells me a couple of interesting things. Number one, it kind of confirms, Rob, what you and I believed going into this whole thing, that when James Gunn left Disney at the time, of course, he's back on board now. He's going to do Guardians 3. But when James Gunn left Disney, every single studio in Hollywood lined up for the James Gunn sweepstakes. And they all made him pitches and they all made him offers saying, come on over and direct whatever you want. And he landed with Warner Brothers to go over and do a DC property. We kind of knew they would give him a blank check, right? Like we kind of knew they would give him a clean pad of paper and a pen, say, do whatever you want. You want to do Superman? We'll let you do. You want to do a Justice League movie? We'll let you do. You want to do this? They were going to let him do anything he wanted. He chose Suicide Squad. So we kind of got a feeling they would probably give him a lot of leeway in that. Not surprising. But Rob, this may surprise you, buddy. There is actually something about this that really doesn't sit well with me. And that's this. In telling James Gunn that he could kill anybody he wants in this movie, including Harley Quinn, that to me says that Warner Brothers is still, at least to some degree, caught in that same trap they have caught themselves in, which is they don't have an overall plan. I'm not saying they absolutely don't have an overall plan, Rob, but when you tell an individual director, and that director has a bunch of characters who have been connected to other pieces of your overall puzzle and says, oh yeah, you can kill anybody you want, go ahead. To me, that smells a little bit like, so you're saying you don't have any future plans for like a Harley Quinn? You don't know what you're going to do with any of these things? Like, it just, one of the things that set Warner Brothers apart negatively before was that with their shared cinematic universe movie, they just let the directors do whatever they want. And that compromised their overall universe, unlike Marvel, which had a Kevin Feige to keep everything working together. And so this concerns me a little bit. It concerns me a little bit because everything I've seen out of Warner Brothers and DC since Walter Hamada became the new sheriff in town has been all positive, all good stuff, all positive. Hearing this part makes me a little bit cautious. I know, Rob, you hear about James Gunn being given a blank check, kill anybody you want in this thing, including Harley Quinn if you want. What stands out to you when you hear that?
Well, okay, first of all, when I hear that, I'm like, really? Like, if you could you really kill Margot Robbie? I mean, I think it makes the movie going experience a little bit more fun, because if everyone is up for grabs, who knows what's going to happen in the movie? You know, they could have shocking To Live and Die in LA deaths where your main character gets shot in the face, spoiler alert, at the end of the movie. I kind of like that idea. After all, John, it's called the Suicide Squad. Someone's got to die, right? But I think like you, I don't know if it shows a lack of planning. I think it's a little flippant, you know? I mean, they're not going to kill the Peacemaker because John Cena is going to play that character in a series on HBO Max.
Although isn't that going to be an origin story? Didn't they say that was going to be a Peacemaker origin story?
Oh, is that what they're going to?
Maybe. Well, I could be wrong about that.
Well, but I mean, there are a lot of characters. I could see them killing off, like, I don't know, Killer Shark or what a King Shark,
King
whatever.
Shark.
I mean, I could see that happening.
Captain Boomerang would probably be on the chopping block.
Yeah, but I just think that, that I don't like the idea they publicize that kind of stuff because it just seems a little flippant, a little, I don't know, but I think it does make the movie going experience more fun. I mean, now I have to see it the very first show, so I'm not spoiled as to who dies.
Well, I mean, you raise a good point. I mean, because like what shows like Sons of Anarchy, Game of Thrones, Sopranos did by killing off main characters almost on whims sometimes.
Right.
It made it so when you were watching shows like those, you could never feel safe with any of the characters.
No.
It doesn't matter who you love, what characters are your favorite. It doesn't matter. Like traditionally in movies or TV, oh yeah, that's the big character. Well, they're clearly not going to die.
Right.
It made watching Sons of Anarchy very interesting because guess what? Bobby could die the next episode, and then he did. I mean, which really does keep you on the edge of your seat. If you watch Vikings, I mean, the main character of Vikings for the first 4 seasons bites it. I mean, like anything can happen. And so I think you raise a really good point. I think you raise a very, very good point that if nothing else, this really does put me as a fan in the mindset when I go in to watch this. There's no sacred cows in this movie.
No.
Like literally, and because when I went into the first Suicide Squad movie, well, Harley Quinn's not going to die. You know that. Will Smith's character is not going to die, right? Maybe James Gunn is setting up a different set of expectations. That's really, so if we see a situation where Harley Quinn's really in trouble, she might actually die. And so you raise a good point there. Question is for you guys. What do you think about James Gunn's comments there saying, hey, they gave him a blank check. He can do whatever he wants in this movie. He can kill anybody in this movie that he wants. And he said some people are going to die in this. Who do you think that's going to be? What do you make of these comments? Jump into the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys.